Oh, blessed be the Lord my strength, who trains my hands for war.
Hey guys, I'm Bill Rapier, and this is Faith, Family, and Training. With me today, I have my good friend, longtime friend, and also one of our instructors, Bryan Resnick. Bryan, welcome.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. So Bryan, you and I have known each other for over 12 years now. We've done a bunch of training together. We regularly exchange notes on training. You're serious. Please just give us an intro. Let us know who you are.
Sure. So my name is Bryan Resnick. I go by Res. Started out kind of training young. I went in the Army, did some guard stuff. I went in at 17 and got out my early 20s and kind of went through that little bit of listless phase in your mid-20s, trying to figure out like what my purpose in life was going to be work-wise, and that's when I found law enforcement. So got in, started as a correctional officer, did that for a couple of years in the prisons, and got out and became a police officer. And then shortly after starting, tried out and made a large regional SWAT team in my area, and been working doing that since. Still currently working and doing that. And then that's how you and I ended up linking up with some work. And you know, I always like shooting. I like to shoot hard. You know, was shooting good when I met you and it got better. Yeah. But I think when we started training together, it's really when I started to see that like being capable was a lot more than just shooting. And so, you know, no small part of your encouragement started doing jiu-jitsu and grappling and other fight sports. And, you know, that has progressed and SIOC and just continue to try to grow my systems and integrate my systems and cover as many bases and ranges of an encounter as possible.
Yeah, it just brings a smile to my face when you said the jiu-jitsu part, because I remember distinctly, I think you've been rolling for 1 or 2 weeks.
A solid 5 days of experience.
A solid 5 days of experience. I thought maybe you had a little bit more. And then being at Rifle Ranch down on the carpet and geese on and go hard.
Yeah, I think the quote was, you're doing some things well and some things not so well.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was some room for growth.
And yeah, and you just got your black belt just recently, so congratulations. Thank you. That's awesome. Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Okay, Bryan, so while we're talking training stuff, what do you see as some of the biggest deficiencies within training today? What do you see as lacking? It could be across law enforcement, across civilians that are serious about carrying mill, or within yourself as well.
Yeah, I think in general, probably the biggest thing that's lacking is integration and having multiple aspects to your training outside of the one discipline that you like or excel in. You know, when we talk about combining disciplines, generally we're pursuing those individual disciplines as a specialist. And I feel like sometimes it's very tempting to like stay with or pursue the thing that you like the best, that you're all the best at. And none of us like to stink at something. So a lot of times we avoid the things that we kind of stink in. And I think trying to pursue those things and rounding out your system and then really looking at like, how do these things work together and how do they apply together and how do I use them so that I can seamlessly transition between levels of force or ranges of an encounter or tools in a given encounter. You know, it's kind of like some of our mentors would say, like the transitions are where the magic really is. For sure.
Yep. Referencing Tom Kyer.
Two on Tom. Yeah, two on Tom for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's something I know is I've seen it as a challenge within myself. And then also, I mean, with students, I see that, and just with the guys, it's just, we all are naturally drawn to certain things, and 100%. You know, as we get good at doing those things, we want to do those more. Yeah. Whether it's shooting or doing jiu-jitsu, or running long distances, or skiing hard, or you know, whatever it is, whatever the discipline is, we generally gravitate towards doing more of what we enjoy doing and what we're good at. And the thing, you know, as we approach this from a perspective of wanting to be as capable as possible to protect ourselves, our families, our loved ones, the people around us to the best of our ability, really we need to be generalists at a lot of things. We need to do some things really, really well, but we also need to be generalists. So solid point
to
right
quote,
there.
specialization is for insects.
Yes, Robert Heinlein right there. Solid quote. All right, so Rez, tell me about what are some specifics that you do? What are the things that just, a week in the life of Rez, or the things, maybe a good week in your life?
Yeah.
What are the things that you're doing to stay as sharp as possible?
Okay, so for me, it starts with always having my tools on me, right? I have to carry what I need to do my job as a husband and a father, and so making sure that I have my stuff on me 100% of the time, that's a huge part of it. I like to start my day. I use our friend, the Northman Frank Windle, who passed away, asked me one day, he's like, "Hey, Rez, what's your roll call ritual?" And I was like, "My what?" And he's like, "Well, what do you do every day?" And so I've adopted that as, I used to think dry fire was something I would treat like a training evolution. I'm going to spend an hour a day and I will dry fire these 3 times a week. And then you have children and that falls apart, right? It doesn't exist anymore. And really what I've figured out for so many, perishable skills-based thing, for me, it's consistency over intensity. Touching,
100%.
Putting hands on my stuff every day. And so my morning ritual, this is something I got from Kevin Kelly. He's another one of our Amtac instructors. I think it's brilliant. It's called the daily switch. So I start in the morning, I get dressed in the clothes I'm going to wear for the day. I put my tools on, I make sure I clear and safe everything. Family's not standing in front of me, good safe direction, right? And then I do my daily switch. So my daily switch is I do 5 fast draws with a fast presentation at the plate of the switch itself, something larger than my sights. Then I do 5 slow fire accurate draws at something smaller than my dot or my sights, like the switch or the switch screw, resetting my trigger under the slide recoil every time. And then I do 5 some kind of combative movement with it. It might be 5 reps of a slow draw, it might be 5 reps of a blade draw into a shoot, might be a get off the X, an odd angle presentation. So at a minimum, that's what I do when I put my tools on in the morning. If I have a little more time, I'll go into a little more in-depth dry fire ritual. But if nothing else, I always have time to do the daily switch. And something I decided was if I am, we were talking earlier about the family dynamic of being early versus late, right? And I am a compulsively early person, and my wife is a little more relaxed with her time standards, and which is good for me. But I came to the conclusion that if I'm late, being another 2 minutes late isn't going to make or break anything. It's worth doing my daily switch in the morning to do it. So that's really how I start my day every day. I think the second thing that's big for me daily is fitness, getting in some kind of fitness component. Right now, usually I try to do some kind of cardio 3 days a week and some kind of lifting 2 to 3 days a week. And then on a good week, I'm at the gym rolling. I might get five classes in. Maybe on a slow week, I get 2 or 3 and just try to stay consistently training. And that's
nice.
It's a general kind of week with the family and work as far as training.
Nice. So Bryan, you are a fellow follower of Christ, Christian believer. Just tell us a little bit about, did you grow up in the church? Were you saved at an early age, or were you saved later? Just tell us kind of how you came to saving faith and where you're at with your walk with the Lord. Yeah,
so I was not saved as a kid. I grew up in a house. We were very kind of an interesting religious upbringing. My dad was religiously Jewish as a kid, but not practicing. My mother was, we in New England, we'd probably call it Creasters. We were a Christmas and Easter kind of only. Yeah. We did little fits and starts of going to church, but it wasn't consistently part of our family life. And then when I was in my late teens, my father got saved and came to Christ, and awesome. That's how I got saved, was through him. And then I think, for a long time, I think I kind of walked in a very entry-level Christianity. And then, probably 10 years ago, by the time we met, I started getting more serious about my faith. And really, since having children in the last 7 years is really when, I realized that if I'm going to profess that I love God, that means that you can't love what you don't know. So like I really had to dive deeper into my faith and into my Bible and really get to like to know the Lord and what His will for my life was and how I should be living. And you know, as a husband and a father, that's my number one job, right? Is to lead my wife in Christ and to raise my children so they know and love Jesus.
Amen. Yeah. So you talked us through some of the physical rituals that you do. Talk us through your spiritual rituals. Like, do you have a devotional time with your wife? Do you have one by yourself? Just talk us through what does that look like?
Yeah. So right now it's morning time. So we both work with children, so we're busy. So the morning is the quiet time in the Resnick household, and so I like to get up early and usually have some coffee, and that's when we do devotional time. I'll either like read my Bible. Right now I've been going through a Bible in a Year podcast. Like I think it's a really nice way to sit down and do a study in the morning. I can have my half hour. There are definitely times where my wife and I will go through that together. I'd actually kind of like to craft that a little bit more so we can line up. I think that's super important. Yeah. And there's times where we'll do that a little separately. And then obviously our church community on Sundays, and we do some stuff with small groups and stuff through our church. And then with my daughter, it's been like getting like some home studies that we can do and just taking, some time during the week to do less school homework and more actual important things, like more like family driven Bible study.
Awesome. All right, Bryan. So I know you're a busy guy with in between work and family and kiddos and working for me, side hustles. Yeah, working for me sometimes. How do you balance your faith, loving and leading your wife and your children and work and training and all those things? How do you balance all that? Yeah,
it's such a good question. I think it's something, at this phase of life, my mid-40s, that I'm really focused on. I told my wife the other day, I feel like I drastically have overcommitted myself, and then every time the phone rings, I'm like, yes. And she's like, you just said yes to something else. I'm like, I know. But I think a big part of it, honestly, for me, is that we talk a lot in our mindset talk about ordering your personas, and for me, that has been hugely helpful to think about. I have to do all these things. I want to do all these things, but if training is not as important as being a husband and a father, right? If I train to the point where I degrade my family and my family falls apart, like Tuan Tom says, like, if you're a warrior with no family, who are you a warrior for, right? And so I think it's easy to make an idol even out of a good thing, and our hearts are idol making machines, and so trying to balance and remind myself that I love training and stuff like that, and I do that, is that it's not the ultimate thing, right? And so I think carving out that time to make sure, for me, starting the day with worship has been huge. I was a start the day with the news and a cup of coffee guy, and I was listening to a sermon once, and our pastor said, God didn't make your ears to be trash cans, so stop throwing garbage in them. And I was like, that's super wise, right? And and I think shifting that and really trying to start my day Christ focused, really helps me, it helps me have a better day, and it helps me to stay aligned with what's more important, right? And then I think when I'm finding things that could be distracting, or even things that I think in the past would have been stressful to me and caused me to have times of worry where I'm wasting time worrying and not being present, to surrender those things to God and to let them go. And then by not spinning my wheels, I'm actually able to capitalize on the time that I'm there and be a better husband and a better father, right? And be more really try to be more present with that. I think that, it's a big part of it, luckily for me, and credit goes to my wife. I have a wonderful wife, and she's a great partner. She's a great partner in our family and a great partner in our faith, and so I'm super fortunate for that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so Rez, as you're out, around the country now teaching, what are what are your goals that you have for any student that shows up? Maybe he hasn't done formal training in the past, or maybe they have done a bunch of different training courses in the past. What are your goals for someone that is not trained within in-tribe guys?
Yeah, I mean, so I think every good course, right, is this balance between you should leave the end of the day more capable than you walked in, but really you should leave there with a huge laundry list of things that you're like, man, this is cool. I need to, maybe I know what to do. I need to put in the reps and install this, right? So like it needs to install to the point where it is at subconscious competence. Or maybe it's, hey, like, wow, I don't know how to move another human. I need to go invest a little time and do a little grappling. Or I don't hit particularly hard. I need to spend a little time and learn to strike with some authority, and kind of giving like that direction. You know, I think for me, we talked when you first hired me, you're like, you know, hey bro, like who's your persona? Like who are you as an instructor? And I've really thought about that the last couple of years as I travel and teach people. And I think for my students, really the thing I've come to is that I am them, right? Like I'm nothing special. I'm just a dude. You know what I mean? I'm not some super prolific guy. I'm just a guy, right? But I'm a guy who invested time and found a system and put in work. And because of that, I'm a lot harder to deal with than I was 15 years ago, right? And that's what I want from my students is like to give them like some direction and most importantly, not just like the what's, because the what's are so situational, right? We can tweak something and change the what, but it's the whys, the overarching 30,000 foot views. This is why these things work. This is like the universals of conflict. And if they can get that and then start to apply it, they will start to self-progress and fill in their own what's.
Awesome. Well, cool, Bryan. Thank you. I know you got a flight to catch here momentarily, so we got to hit the road. Guys, if you want to learn more about Res, we'll have courses posted here in the near future for 2024. Definitely check it out because Bryan is a phenomenal instructor and you will definitely learn a bunch from him. So, Res, thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for being on.
Great time.
Oh, blessed be the Lord, my strength, who trains my hands for war.